Right, I've got my little cheat sheet. Just because you've come such a long way, I would hate it if I forgot to ask you something. But thank you so much for coming, and thank you for coming. You've come a really long way, and I really appreciate it. Yeah. So, AP Beswick is a dark fantasy author from Lancashire, and he's best known as the creator of the Levanthria series. And we have lots of books here for sale afterwards if anybody would like to buy some. And your latest book is Veil of Stone, a dark fantasy retelling of the Medusa myth, which is absolutely brilliant. I read it this week. And if anybody is interested in writing and publishing, Adam is an absolute expert on it, and you travel the world essentially talking to people about how to self-publish your books. And
yeah, I genuinely don't know how that's ended up happening, but yes, I think last November I was in Las Vegas. I got invited over to do a presentation over there, which was really good fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you briefly to how would you describe the Levanthria series, and how did that come about?
So the Levanthria series is a series of dark fantasy retellings inspired by British folklore. So a brand new fantasy world, whole cast of characters, but the tropes, you will recognise the myths behind them, either from the cover image or from the characters when you meet them. So, for example, Forest of Vanity and Valour is a dark fantasy Robin Hood retelling, which you can probably tell from the cover with the green cloak kind of covering someone. It's set in a forest, but the main character is called Virio. But it's more, I try and put that dark fantasy spin on it. So how can we take a trope like taking from the rich to give to the poor, and just do it in a way that people aren't used to seeing, but in a completely new world? So this story starts out where he's not a particularly nice person. I flip the trope, so he takes from the poor so that he can keep his own wealth. But it's in a fantasy world with magic and monsters. And that came about because I watched the most recent Hollywood adaptation of Robin Hood, and although I did enjoy it, when it got to the end, I'm one of these, but when it gets to the end of a movie, if the ending doesn't land, I will just sit there and stew on it as a storyteller. I'll be like, oh, they could have done so much more with that. And my wife gets so fed up with me. So at the end, we just watched the Robin Hood with Taron Egerton, where he was literally firing arrows like it was a machine gun. Which I have been told is possible, but I just didn't connect with it. I still enjoyed it, but I was grumbling to my wife about the ending, and she was like, you know what, if you think you can do better, write it yourself. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. So at the time I'd written 2 stories, which was Spirit Beast Awakening and Spirit Beast Unleashed, in their old title format before I re-released them and rebranded them. And I probably spent about 5 months writing it. And as soon as I wrote it, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I had more stories like this, but inspired by different folklore legends? So at the time I was watching Pirates of the Caribbean with my daughter, who were very much just trying to get her into the movies that I love. Pirates of the Caribbean being one of my favourite films, and I was like, I really want to write a pirate story. And I was like, thinking about it, I was like, right, I need to do a Blackbeard retelling. And I live in a quaint town called Oswaldtwizzle, which is somewhere between, it sounds like a mythical land like Narnia, but it is basically nestled between Blackburn and Accrington, if you've ever heard of those towns. And from my house, you can see a big hill, which is called Pendle Hill, which has a fabled story of the Pendle Witches. So I was like, right, I want to do something to do with Pendle Witches, and managed to incorporate a story where, kind of with the premise of what if Blackbeard helped one of the Pendle Witches escape the witch trials. Again, set in the same fantasy world, new cast of characters, magic systems, things like that. And the story world just started evolving from there. Before I knew it, I had a whole cast of characters being introduced in these books that I knew later down the line would have their own stories.
Yeah.
But also, as I am absolutely convinced I have undiagnosed ADHD, as I'm sure a lot of writers do. And I love fantasy, but find really big books intimidating, because I struggle to concentrate when I'm sit down. As soon as it's a big book, I'm already checking out after 10, 15 pages, because I know how much more there is to read. So I was like, well, what if I had a story that it was like an epic fantasy story, but condensed into individual origin stories. So as the series evolved, so did my thought process on how to adapt that series and make it accessible for people. And yeah, it just continued to grow from there until I completed the series, not last year, the year before, which feels crazy. So yeah, October 2020, no, that's not right. On October 2024, I released the last book in the Levanthria series. So it is now a completed series. And then from there, the plan was always to move on to, because the story world's been so popular, I need to continue this. So the idea was to move on to different continents in this world, where then I can focus on different folklore, different cultures and mythology, which is what's led on to Veil of Stone, which is the first book in a spin-off series, which we're now into a land that's inspired by Greek mythology. So me and Talia are having an absolute blast co-writing. Talia Beckett's a really prolific author. So we're having an absolute blast creating another new world, but set in the same world as Levanthria with the magic systems. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's really hard work being a fantasy fan who struggles with big books.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
My wife reads loads of them, and she'll recommend one, and I'll just pick it up and be like, I can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So who influenced you in terms of the storytelling and the writing end of things? Were there any authors who you were a big fan of?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a indie author called Bengali, a huge inspiration of mine. I have been lucky to do a TikTok live with him once, where I just completely fangirled and absolutely made a fool of myself. Really cool guy. He's an English author who moved to Canada. I'm not sure how many years ago, but he's based in Canada now. And his fantasy series, the written Emaneska series, was just blew my mind with the world building and the magic systems. But I was also really interested in Ben as an indie author. I am very passionate about being an indie author and inspiring and working with other indie authors. So Ben was a really big inspiration of mine. And then there's also Michael R. Miller. He's another indie author he wrote the Ascendant series, which is a Dragon Rider series where the main character bonds with a dragon that's blind. So a really interesting concept. Again, part of that format is what it gave me the confidence to write my own story in Wingweaver, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. And yeah, he's been a huge inspiration. I actually got to meet him at Comic-Con last October in London, where again, I was absolutely fangirling and probably made a complete fool of myself. So yeah.
That's awesome. So how long had you been writing for before you published your first novel?
So I started writing my first book, what would become Spirit Beast Awakening, in 2017. Before that, I always wrote bedtime stories for my children. So my children were very young at that point. I think my eldest was about 6, maybe 7. My youngest was about 18 months old to 2 years. So I used to write them, always used to write bedtime stories, just having fun, imagination. I've always had a wild imagination. So their personal favourite was The Lost Lion, which was about a lion who basically wakes up on a beach, because lions, what they're doing on a beach, and he has no idea why he's there, and he's got to find his way home. It basically translates as, Dad got drunk last night, woke up somewhere where he shouldn't have been, and he's following the clues to get home. So he's one of those stories that, as a grown-up, if you read it, you'd get the message behind it. But the kids actually helped come up with the characters. So there's a giraffe called Annabelle, which is my niece. Yeah. So obviously the kids came up with that name, but they wanted a giraffe that camouflaged themselves. So she paints all her cut patterns on her to match whatever surroundings she's in. So we had loads of fun writing these stories. And then my eldest daughter said to me, why don't you write a proper book?
Right.
And I jokingly said to her, well, by the time I've finished it, you'll probably be old enough to read it. So gets to 2017, me and my wife had been in Edinburgh and on a weekend breakaway. So we did all the Harry Potter sites and stuff like that. Yeah. Came away feeling really inspired. I'd had a semblance of a story that I'd always wanted to tell. And because it was quite a heavy drinking weekend, about 5 minutes into the train ride home, my wife fell asleep. Right. So I just started using that time to draft an outline that ended up nothing like what Spirit Beasts was.
Yeah.
But from that point, I just started sitting down and writing, and I started it in the January of 2018. And then by May time, I had finished the first draft. And then it took me 18 months until December 2019 until I'd figured out how to self-publish it and produce it and release it.
That's amazing. So you've been helped quite a lot by your family just being like, write a book.
Yeah, just egging me on. So yeah, we had I've still got my little book somewhere with all these little stories I wrote for them.
That's very Tolkien.
Yeah, because my handwriting is atrocious. Right. So there's no drawings or sketches or anything like that. Yeah, we've got The Lost Lion, the Mumble Grumble and the Rhubarb Crumble. That's a personal favourite of mine. And the Pellacrocker Monkey Fin, which the kids used to absolutely love that one.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's really cute. When it came to Levanthria, how much did you know about the world before you started writing the novels? Did you have like a world Bible or anything like that, or did you discover it?
Not for the Levanthria series. I'm very much a discovery writer. I love pantsing.
Yeah.
And with that series, I was very much a baby when it came to writing. As you know, with any book, every book you write, you get stronger and stronger. That was the third book that I wrote, and now I've just finished book 18. So even through the Levanthria series, you will see my writing evolve from the start of the series to the end of the series, which I love that because the characters evolve with you as well. So, for example, Orjan, who is the main character in book 3 in the Levanthria series, I never intended him to become a main character, let alone one of my favourites and a lot of my readers' favourites characters. But because I was effectively making it up as I went along, it would be I was writing a chapter and be like, oh, this would naturally be what happens next, and then I'd write that chapter. Right, while they're doing that, what would the other character be doing? And just seeing these characters evolve and the different paths they were going down and the decisions they were making. So certainly have a lot more fun with effectively making it up as I go along. Whereas Wingweaver, I had a 20,000 word story Bible before I even started that book because of the complex magic system, the dragons, the terminologies being used, the world politics, stuff that isn't even referenced in the book.
Yeah,
I put so much work into that because I knew this book was going to be my biggest book, but I know this is going to be my biggest series, not just in the size of the books, but I am really excited about this series when it comes out. Really excited about the messaging and what and I think it's because there's a lot of a personal messaging in that story as well.
Could you talk about Wingweaver and the premise of it?
Yes. So again, that came from? So Wingweaver is a story I've wanted to write probably since quite early days in starting out my own writing journey, and something that I never had the confidence to. One, from a writing point of view, but also from a personal point of view. So the reason for that is I was born with a club foot. So for those that aren't fully aware of what that means for me, is when my mum was pregnant with me, I think she fell down a couple of steps or something like that, or there was an incident where she'd fallen over, but my foot got trapped in a rib cage. So as I developed, my foot twisted. So it was really when I was born, where my ankle was where my heel should be. My foot had twisted around that much. So up until the age of 2, I had to have multiple corrective surgeries. My right leg is about probably less than a third of the size of my left leg. So there's quite a lot of underdevelopment with my calf muscle on there. I pretty much don't have a calf muscle on my right leg. And up until recently, it was always been something that I've hidden. It's not been something that I've been open about. I have friends that grew up with me that when I first spoke about this for Wingweaver, they didn't even know about it because I'd managed to mask it that well.
Yeah.
And it could be simple things like people saying to me, "Are you okay? You look like you're walking with a limp today." And I've just learned to say, "Oh yeah, I've damaged my knee in football, like I did my knee in years ago playing football," and just move on from it. Not that I took offence to it, and I didn't see it as people being ignorant, but that had just become a natural coping strategy for me for how to manage that situation. But one of the key things was I was always told of the limits that having a severely underdeveloped right leg would pose for me. For example, I was told I'd never be able to play football. I'd struggle. I'd potentially need walking aids by the time I was 40. So I'm 40 in May, and I still don't have any walking aids. And at 40, I still play football every Monday night with a group of lads that we play football, like a kind of men's mental health thing.
Yeah.
We do that every Monday without fail. And that doesn't mean I don't have days where I can get quite severe pain in my ankle, especially when me and my family and friends, we like going on big walks. We live in really lovely part of the world where there's really nice walks in the countryside, in the hills that we can go to. We're an hour away from the Lake District, but I never let that hinder me. So when it came to Naira's story, who is Aidan's dragon in Wingweaver, I was like, right, how can I put this, the message I want to put across, into a fantasy world, which is what I am good at. Well, some people might argue I'm not good at it, but what I'm passionate about. And the idea, when it finally came to me, something just clicked in my head, and that concept was, well, what if the main character, Aidan, bonds with a dragon who's born with permanently damaged wings, meaning that she can never fly. So he's at an elite Dragon Rider Academy, and they are literally the only Dragon Rider that cannot fly. And that kind of, the systems that they have to overcome, I don't think prejudice might be the right word, that kind of being looked down on, you're no good to us, you're a dragon, you're a dragon rider, but you can't fly. What use are you to us, kind of thing. And then proving that they have a place, not just in the world, in the academy, and that they have a worth. So it's that story of, that messaging of focusing on, which there's characters that are focusing on trying to fix Naira and heal and make it so her wings are no longer damaged so she can fly, when actually the messaging is she doesn't need fixing. Right. There's nothing wrong with her. You just accept how she is and what she is capable of, and watch that dragon kind of soar. Yeah. So there is a very, very personal messaging underneath that. It is the most excited I've ever been about a story. It's the most hype I've had about a story before a book comes out, which brings its own level of pressure. But my close circle of ARC readers, and even my audiobook narrator, he had it less than 24 hours, and this book took me a year to write and edit. It's 180,000 words, and he read it in less than 24 hours, and was like, "This is incredible." So that has given me some confidence. Yeah. But I think, again, because it's such a personal meaning behind the story, and not everyone will know that. Those that follow my social media will understand the messaging. Yeah. But I want that to come across with Naira's character, that she's not daunted by the hand that she's been dealt with. She's just getting along and doing her bit this isn't a cozy, whimsical fantasy either. It is a brutal world that they
all
live
of yours
in.
Are quite brutal.
Yeah. So that's Wingweaver.
That sounds amazing. Were you a bit nervous bringing so much of yourself into the?
Not while I was writing it, and I think speaking with Jack Fields, who is the incredible narrator who's speaking to the book, that's one thing that he said. Obviously, he knows me personally, but even he knew about the themes in the story when I approached him to see if he'd narrate the book, the series. But he said, like, with the dialogue and things, he's like, you can tell there's such a personal feeling in that, and that brings even more character to the characters in the book, because your understanding of where that messaging has come across. Obviously, I'm not a dragon, I don't have wings, but I've found a way to bring my experiences into a fantasy world. And I think when you get the right messaging, that itself can be really powerful. I've already had so many messages from people when I've put videos out there, showing myself being quite vulnerable, literally in voice shaking, talking to the camera, talking for a few minutes about my experiences, because it was literally the first time on camera that I was putting my story out there. It's people that have contacted me to say either they're an adult with a club foot and they've never come across anything like that they can relate to, and others saying that their children have a club foot. So actually, them as an adult, they're relating to it, but because people hear the term club foot, and it's kind of, from a disability point of view, it's kind of cast aside sometimes as quite a minor disability, when actually it's quite a severe disability that is kind of under recognized, and there's not a lot of support for people that suffer with club. I'm quite lucky in the sense that I've got one club foot. There's a lot of people out there that they might have both legs that are club feet. So again, it's by putting myself out there, that is already giving people strength and that recognition. They're feeling seen, and that already feels incredibly powerful for me. So I just hope I've done the story justice, and that when the book is actually out, that people enjoy it.
It looks awesome. I love the cover. Looks amazing as well.
Yeah, I think it is my favourite cover. The special edition that I have in development is phenomenal, but this is without doubt probably my favourite book cover that I've designed.
Do you have a number of books in mind for the series, or are you sort of taking it one at a time?
I am in my head when I started out. So it hasn't been announced yet, but I have been given permission to announce it. So it will be going out in my newsletter tomorrow to let everyone know that Audible have acquired the audiobook production rights for Winged Weaver. So I pitched it to them as 5 books, but as I can already see it being more than a 5-book series.
Yeah.
Or either that, or there'll be multiple kind of, there could be a potential for spin-offs set in the same world.
Yeah.
So they have signed the first 3 books of the series. So I've just started drafting the second book, which I hope to have finished the first draft of that when Winged Weaver comes out at the end of April. That's
amazing. The Audible deal is incredible.
And I managed to negotiate it without an agent as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's awesome. Can I ask, what does how do you sort of respond to reader feedback when you're carrying on with a series? Do you sort of get halfway through a series and readers have really connected with one particular character?
No, I think for me, as a coping strategy, as an author, I stay away from reviews.
Oh, okay.
I very much believe they are a reader space. They're not. But also, my personality type is there could be 1,000 positive reviews and 1 negative review, and I will fixate on that negative review to a point where it will really impact my well-being.
Okay.
And I don't know if you visit Goodreads, but people are brutal.
They can be savage.
Brutal on there. And, that is their right to be, if they've paid for a book, they have every right. If they've not enjoyed it or they've got flaws and things like that, they have every right to list that. My issue with Goodreads is they prioritise engagement. So often it's the negative reviews that get most engagement. Okay. So what you'll find is I might put a video out about Forest of Vanity and Valor, which is the first book, and there's a lot more positive reviews than there are negative.
Yeah.
But people will say, I've just been on Goodreads and there's loads of negative reviews. But all it is the negative reviews show first, not the positive ones.
Right.
But when you look at the overall messaging, and I'm very honest about the story, I was quite an inexperienced writer when I wrote this book, so I'm not saying it's perfect, but the people that enjoy it love it. The people that don't. It's as simple as that. Yeah. But what all the readers do agree is as the series progresses, so does my writing. Yeah. And you can see the development and you can see the change because I was constantly pushing myself, learning, developing. But one thing I stay away from is looking at what people are saying and letting that influence how I'm going to write the next book, because I think sometimes you could do a disservice to your own characters because you're trying to people please rather than writing the story that you originally set out to write.
It's a shame that you don't get to read the nice reviews as well, because there's lots of really nice ones.
And again, every now and again, something will pop up and I'll just think, I'll have a quick look, and I'll start reading a couple and I'll be like, even though they're positive, I'm like, I need to stop because I know if I keep going and I get to one negative one, that's the one that's just gonna pull me in. So I just stay away. It is a reader space and I respect that. I know authors that, they go in and they'll argue back.
That doesn't seem...
there's a big fantasy group on Facebook and someone had put on like a picture of my books and they were like, I keep seeing this pop up. Has anyone got any thoughts on it? And, people were in there absolutely championing it and fighting for it. There were people in there that weren't complimentary. You're going to get that. Yeah. And I just went in and there was one that someone would have been like overly, almost like scathing. So I thought, no, this is valid, but I just went into expecting a couple of things and I just explained exactly what I've just explained to you. Look, when I wrote this, I did not expect this series to blow up. Now, would I have rather this been my 18th book that's finally polished? I've got the resources to pay for really complex editing processes. At the time I didn't. yes, I wish it was that now, but it wasn't. So ultimately, I'm not going to go back
Right.
and fix what people perceive to be the problems with that book, because again, that then could change the trajectory of the rest of the series, and you just end up down a rabbit hole. But I just explained quite eloquently. I was like, look, absolute valid point. I appreciate that. This was where I was then. This is where I am now. I think the feedback you see on this post is perfectly valid. It's on Kindle Unlimited if you want to read it for free. And if you enjoy it, I have my own store that I send everything out direct to keep that personal connection. And I'm really passionate about that. And then everyone was diving, and that's the first time I've ever replied to something. Everyone was diving up and they're like, oh, I want to buy the book just for you being so honest and genuine and approachable, because it's a lot of authors would go in and maybe be quite defensive but come across as aggressive. Whereas I'm just like, no, you're if you don't like it, your opinion is just as valid as someone that absolutely loves it. Just don't make it personal. And those are the ones that can be hard if you like, because I'm on social media, and I've very quickly found out that some sections, for example, in America, a lot of Americans don't understand sarcasm like we do in Britain. And I'm from the north, so you know I am a very sarcastic person. I made a tongue-in-cheek sarcastic comment. I think someone had said like, guess what book I'm reading? And I'm not going to go, oh, what are you reading? Because I know they're obviously alluding to reading one of my books. So I was like, I was reading at the time A Court of Thorns and Roses. So all I said was, Court of Thorns and Roses. Anyway, next thing I know, every single book I've ever written got 1-starred. And I knew it was this person because the name matched the review on Goodreads. And it was literally like, AP Beswick treats his characters the same, treats women the same way he treats his characters. My wife read this review and she was like, where are they? I was like, what a brutal personal attack. And literally every time I release a book, they started off with 1-star review saying, what a surprise, another misogynistic character. And I was like, me being sarcastic is not misogynistic. like what is going on? So again, because it did affect me quite a bit, but you just have to learn to take a step back, laugh it off, and understand again, if I could go back and speak to that person, it's just a quick, really sorry if I offended you there. That was not my intention. Like, we've got a thing in the UK called humour. But again, just saying that as a sarcastic, well then now, can you imagine the threads? Oh, I can't believe how this author spoke to me. And then you just get an assassin. So you've just got to be very careful, find ways to protect yourself. So this is why I just stay away. So by all means, don't enjoy a book. You have every right to. Just don't attack the author unless they do something well, even if they do something controversial, just ignore them. This must be quite a tricky area for you, being marketing so much through social media. Is the engagement, and you know, not I was emailing an indie author from Redditch, Ian Rob Wright, a horror author, and I asked him for some advice on social media stuff because I'm not clueless, and he was like, don't be political. You can either don't be political or really lean into it and you know, be political. So my stance is very much don't be political, and you will never hear me air a personal opinion unless I'm defending an author that's been attacked or there's some toxic behaviour that needs challenging, just to remind people about boundaries and expectations. And yes, authors have to put themselves out there a lot more, but it doesn't mean that you might buy the book, but it doesn't mean you get to affect them in a really toxic, negative way. And I'm not saying all people do that, but you've got to be careful with how, from an author point of view, how you protect yourself, but also be aware that some people thrive off that. They thrive off conflict and negativity. And actually, unfortunately, a lot of these social media platforms thrive off the attention that brings. So they'll almost get promoted. So an example being, not related to the book world, we have they're really popular on social media. It's called Finch Bakery. They've been all over the news in the north recently. All they did was put a post out saying that they had vegan and halal friendly ingredients for all their cakes, just so more people can access the food. Right. And the firestorm that's whipped up, and the hatred and the vitriol from people saying, oh my God, halal, instant unfollow and stuff like that. But they're really funny. And they came out and was like, I'd hate to have to educate you, but just because we said halal doesn't mean that we're sprinkling meat in our brownies. Like, it just means that we don't put these ingredients in, that when you, and actually it became quite educational. So initially they lost 300-400 followers, and this is literally the last week this has happened, which is why I want to use it as an example.
Yeah.
But they've gained 15,000-20,000 followers now, because people have seen the way they've handled it and gone, I love that.
Yeah.
But you still have people that have been so toxic and negative and starting threads. Literally, I didn't even know it was a thing. There's anti-halal groups on Facebook that I didn't even know was a thing, that were posting links to them and telling people to attack them and target them, and basically people then commenting saying, oh, I hope they go bankrupt, and really negative.
Yeah.
But the media then don't help, because they grab hold of it and they start posting really like loosely titled headings to lure people in, that then start attacking without actually reading the context. So, and again, the media then creates the firestorm, but then all these influencers jump on it because they know this story is getting momentum. So they'll talk about it to create a chain of reaction from people then reacting to it. And before you know it, you can have this whole firestorm, just this snowball building and building. It's the same for authors. You could say something really innocently, a little soundbite of it get clipped. Someone used that to bait people, and they can really whip up a lot of animosity towards an author. You've got to be so careful with it nowadays. But it's one of those risks that you have to take, putting yourself on out in the public. I'm very fortunate that it hasn't happened yet, but I know it will happen one day. Someone will take umbrage and something could happen. And again, it's just about how you manage that. And
when websites like Goodreads and like Twitter is the perfect example, thrive on this sort of negativity.
So I've got quite a dark sense of humour, probably from my mental health nursing days, but you do learn to laugh it off. And again, I'm not afraid to. I'm a lot more vocal in sticking up for myself, and to be fair, that's more in person than online. Like yesterday, someone started private messaging me while I was doing a live and being quite not very nice. And I was on this live stream, and my wife was like, where did that come from? Because normally I don't react, but it did trigger me. And so I did call them out. And then it was like a hidden message, so only I could see it. So I just read the message out, and then everyone else that was watching the live was then just calling out the person. And I've got moderators in there, so they just blocked and removed them.
You seem to have built a really good community of fans around yourself.
So I always have a focus. I use my social media, a lot of it, to reach new readers, because it's really hard for, like, when people are following you, to make your content reach. So like, say you were following me on social media, it's really hard for me to make engaging content that I know you're going to see and find meaningful. So I've just started using them to market my books, or market myself as an author, and try and create some entertaining content. And over the years, I've created a lot of content that I can then repurpose and reuse. But then I use platforms like TikTok Shop and TikTok live selling most recently to engage with people on a more personable level. They can see that it's just me and my wife in our APHQ, as we call it, packing the books, literally signing and packing every single order that comes to us. And then they can see their orders being packed, and they can see we're genuine with what we're doing. And that itself has helped build up a really good, not a brand for me as an author, but for AP Beswick Publications, which we now have 6 authors that we've published and worked with. So it's helping bring their level and exposure up, but we're building, because we can focus on the more community side. So we get a lot of people that tune in every Friday morning when I do a live. It's my day to pack orders, so I'll be packing the orders, jump on a live, and then we'll just literally be nattering about the week, and I'll give them updates on what's coming in the coming weeks and beyond, and anything that's happened in the past week. So it's just a really good way of hanging out, basically.
One of the reasons I wanted to invite you down and chat to you was because of just how much you've done as an indie author. I was saying earlier, every time I've sort of tuned into you, I've been like, I think the first time I saw you, it was the post about the individual origin stories building to the MCU style double finale. And I was like, that's amazing. And then the next time I saw you, you had your own office and you were packing stuff yourself and selling direct, which for indie authors is very tricky, a very tricky thing to establish. And then I saw you again, and you were selling live on TikTok in a sort of QVC fashion. It was amazing. and I've never seen indie authors doing that sort of thing. And I was struck by the ambition. You seem really ambitious. Could you sort of just briefly outline your current kind of business model, if that's not too boring a question?
So no, that's
but
absolutely
because it is
fine.
so unusual for indie authors.
Yeah.
We've had indie authors in here before, and I'm always curious as to how they can get away from giving Jeff Bezos money.
Yeah, so once upon a time when I first started out, I had all my eggs in the Amazon basket, and there's nothing wrong with that. At the time, I was doing what I could to earn what I could, and I was very fortunate that I had a video go viral on Instagram in 2023, end of October, early November, and that generated 6.5 million views. One video, 9 seconds. It was a nothing video. Took me seconds to make. Didn't think anything of it. Blew up out of nowhere, and suddenly I had all this attention. And for 2 weeks straight, my books were making about £4,000 a day.
That's incredible.
I wish it was like that all the time. It is not. I've got a social media for authors group that I run that has 2,500 members now, which is insane. But one of the things I always say is don't chase virality. Virality is a byproduct, but just get comfortable with putting content out and talking about your books if you want to sell them. But what happened there was I was still working full time. I was a Band 7 nurse. I was a nurse commissioner, and I had a full-time wage and all this extra money coming in, and I was already selling direct. I was using a company called Book Vault. So orders came in, that order would then go to them. Their warehouse was kind of linked to my online store, but they could print and distribute worldwide. They had printers in America, UK.
Oh, right.
So if someone in America ordered, they would only be paying kind of shipping in America, which is a big thing. But they would print the book, ship the book, and then just invoice me the print costs and the shipping costs, and whatever I've sold my book for, I get the difference. And what I realized is I was making nearly 3 times what I'd make selling my book on Amazon. So I was like, moving forward, still going to be on Amazon. I'm going to prioritize direct selling because I've seen I can make more money from that. But also because of this viral video and the money I'd made, I was like, I need to reinvest this wisely. So it was very much everything I was earning was just coming back into the business until it got to a point where I was really struggling to manage the job and my author brand growing, my books growing. So I had a conversation with my wife, said, look, I think we were in Las Vegas. I got invited the first time. I've been in Vegas 3 times now. So I got invited to be a part of a presentation in Las Vegas, and I won a scholarship ticket to go. So it was at the time it's called 20 Books Vegas, and it was the world's biggest indie author conference, 1,500 indie authors, 100 and odd lectures on business and craft and all everything you can imagine. So really fired up, sat with my wife. We went for a meal on the final day, and I was like, look, I want to go full time. I've seen enough to know that the books are doing great. I'm not kidding myself that this viral thing's going to happen all the time, but what it's given is there's an opportunity here, and I'd rather in 3 years' time not be full of regrets and resentment if I didn't take the chance. But I also have a family to support, so I'd never take a chance that would negatively impact my family. So my wife, who is so supportive, she was like, yeah, I agree. But I think we need money saved up as a bit of a buffer to cover your wage while we do this. So I was like, okay, what number are you thinking? She was like, so I've thought about it, and if we had £40,000 in the bank account, then that'd be enough for me to go full time. And I was like, are you taking the mick? Like, we have never had more than £500 in savings in the 10 years we've been together at the time. I was like, and you'd suddenly 40 grand is what's needed for me to go full time. I was like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, gets to January, and I sit her down at the table. I said, Sarah, I need to sit down with you tonight and run through things. And I slid her a piece of paper. And she said, what's that? I said, that's what's in the business account. Because obviously I'd seen the income coming from, and it wasn't £40,000, but it was a good chunk of money. And she was like, oh. And then I slid her another piece of paper, and she said, what's that? I said, that's what Amazon haven't paid us yet. And that was £35,000.
Bloody hell.
So she was like, oh, and I genuinely thought she was going to fall off the chair at that point. And I said, I'm going into work on Monday because I was coming up to the end of a probation period, and I I'd have had to give an extended period. I'd have had to work for longer to give my notice. So I was like, and I can't do another 3-4 months of what I'm juggling now. But she was like, yeah, I think you should give 3 months notice. I was like, no, it's going to be a month. But I could have given a week if I wanted, but I did love that job, and I really appreciate my boss that had given me the opportunity. So that year had a garden pod built in the office, because I was like, I'm working from home. I don't want to be sat at the dining table and then moving to the living room in the evening. I needed somewhere separate. Found that TikTok Shop was working well, but it became quickly quite overwhelming. Packing them, like our living room would be overrun with boxes. Literally, my daughter loved it because she was just building castles of boxes up here, like taking me weeks to fulfill, like Kickstarter campaigns for like crowdfunding to fund books. But again, I was just getting wise to creating multiple revenue sources that I could then reinvest back in the business, which changes a lot when you are paying yourself. There's one thing to earn enough money from your books to pay yourself. It's another to make enough money to also produce the next book. So I've always been big on, looking at what avenues are working. So, I put my audiobooks on YouTube for free.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I earn ad revenue from that.
Yeah. So that's how those
yeah, so you can listen to it for free, but I still have people complain, there's adverts all the time on this, not listening. I was like, well, buy the audiobook. If you don't want the adverts, buy the audiobook. Yeah. I'm just trying to, create a medium where people that can't necessarily have the resources have a way of listening to the audiobook.
Yeah,
because I do believe that any media should be available for everyone. Physical books, we started developing dyslexic-friendly font versions.
Yeah.
And there's loads of authors that have followed on from that. So there's loads of books out there that I know have dyslexic-friendly fonts because we inspired them to go and do that with their books.
And that's amazing because as a librarian, we don't get new dyslexia-friendly books very often.
So one thing I'd love to do, I was speaking with the Deaf Society because I went to a business talk where the guy really powerful talk, and he was a deaf person. And I was like, how good would that be if we used one of our audiobooks but had someone sign it? How powerful could that be, that someone who is deaf feels listened to, that they'd be able to engage with an audiobook in that medium? The only barrier we've had so much more at the moment is how it's very expensive to do that. But again, I'd love to. It's something I want to explore more of this year, and see, like, look, is there a partnership thing we can do here to see if it works, and then we can put that content on YouTube for people. So it's not something they'd pay for, but there'd be a version of the book where it's signed throughout, because I know that's not been done, and it's not me trying to make money or profit off that. It's making your stories accessible to everyone. So from that, again, I started off selling, I think I bought 5 copies of The Forest of Vanity and Valor, sold them on TikTok Shop in a day, used the money to buy 10 books and so on and so forth. Last year we spent about £60,000 on stock alone in our warehouse. We've gone from an office garden pod to my wife leaving her career as a structural engineer to support me to run the business, to smallest office in an office block near us. I was really stubborn. I refused to have a commute. I was like, I'm working for myself. I am not driving for longer than 5 minutes. Otherwise, I quit. I'm not doing this anymore. But my wife found an office that was perfect. We decided to focus more on the direct selling because I felt Book Vault were great for distributing everything, but I was losing that personable touch. That in the essence of, I haven't had contact with the book. I'm becoming Amazon almost. Like, I'm selling a large quantity, but it's you may as well buy from Amazon, right? Because I'm not having any contact with that story other than writing it. So to be fair, I'd not pushed, but strongly leaned my wife into us taking the risk. We ordered 500 books of all 6 of the Levanthria series, so 500 copies each. Forest of Vanity and Valor was the first pallet of books to arrive. I literally filled every shelf in our office and still had 10 boxes left over that needed unpacking, and the office was crammed. And I was like, what have I done? I've got another 2,500 books literally on their way. But I knew the biggest office had just been vacated, so said to the Jill, who runs our office, can I have the keys to have a look around? And was instantly envisioned it, showed my wife around. On a rare occasion, she agreed with everything I had to say. She had her anxiety, But then we took the risk. We were like, you know what, it's a 6-month lease. We've got the money to, the capital to pay for the rent for 6 months, and let's see what happens. And we've just gone from strength to strength. As I said, we spent £50,000-60,000 on stock last year. I think I've already spent about £8,000-9,000 on stock this year. And that is because how it sells out. We've got to replenish. We've got to get ready for my Wing Weaver launch, which has a lot of pre-orders. So
that's amazing.
I've got a media room. I've got my own office. Sarah has her office. We have a packing room. We have 2 big rooms filled with shelves, filled with books. And as I said, we've got 6 authors that we work with that we publish their books now. So we've invested our money publishing other indie authors that we believe in them and their books, and creating a really supportive platform. But through social media, people can see that grow as well. Anyway, I feel like I waffled on a little bit there. But basically we have our own HQ, our own setup, and that it's still to this day, it's just me and my wife that manage all that. And in January last year, it might have been February last year, we hit £1 million, $1 million, sorry, in book sales. And we've well past the £1 million mark in overall sales since we started. Since I started, my books took off in 2022. So quite a fast trajectory. That does not mean I'm a millionaire. It does not mean I've got £1 million set in my bank balance. Because obviously you've got a lot of business expenses, taxes, lots of things that people don't think of or realise actually affect you as very much as a small and growing business. But again, we've just took to invest. We pay ourselves what we were earning in our careers before. We both left them to do this, and everything else gets reinvested back into the business. So the better the business does, the more print books we can order, or it might be that we can say, right, let's look to bring another author in because we've got a bit of extra money that we can invest that in a print run for them. That's
incredible. Do you think that the way you're selling print books with this sort of personal touch of them seeing and packing and signing them and adding extra bits and bobs and that sort of thing, do you think that's the way to win readers away from Kindles? Because we have that problem with libraries where, people who don't use libraries will be like, everybody's just got a Kindle nowadays. But if you just order something from Amazon, as you say, it just comes in a box and the author's never seen it. Excuse me. But do you think selling print books, the way to do it is to make it more special, make it more connected with the readers and yourself?
I'll show you guys. Would you rather a bog standard book from a retail, not even a retailer, bookstore, online, anything like that, or would you prefer to pay the same amount, because we don't charge extra for signed copies? Would you prefer to pay the same amount and get a signed copy? Not because of the value it brings, but it's just, for me, it's just inherently more personable. So show of hands if you'd rather unsigned, and hands up if you'd rather a signed copy at no extra cost.
There you go.
Okay. The only extra cost that comes in is people ordering outside of. You guys have got it great because it's next day delivery, £4.50 shipping, next day regardless of how much you order, and it's been packed by. It'll probably be packed by Sarah, but I literally sign absolutely everything, aside from the books that our authors we've published. So it just makes it inherently more personable, and I think that's something that's a breath of fresh air. Especially when you see people, and you will go onto TikTok at the minute, because I'm running a social media challenge on my Novel Gains group, and so there are loads of authors at the minute going live and selling that and really trying to sell their books online, but also grow the community, because I'm like, look, no one's doing this, and it's a great opportunity for us all as authors just to get some confidence, get used to just talking online, which can be hard because you're very much in a room just staring at your phone. But you are building a connection with people, and first it might be awkward, but before you know it, I've literally got people in that are coming in and they're like just chatting to me, like, and they've literally been coming on week in, week out for months now. I've been doing it consistently every Friday since September, and did not for one second imagine the community that in itself would bring. I'm at PacifyCon in April. We've hired a booth to sell our books at PacifyCon in Harrogate. And there's loads of people on this live that are like, oh, we can't wait to come down, not just to meet you, but we want to meet Mrs. Bez. Because although she's never on camera, they know, because of how I speak about her, that she's so involved behind the scenes. Like on the live stream, we add loads of extra goodies. So we'll put art prints in, we'll throw in like bags, book sleeves, metal pin badges, things like that at no extra cost, just to be like, thanks for ordering on the live, just to get people used to coming on the live and chatting. It's the only time we do it, and because on our store you pay for the art prints and stuff, but Sarah she doesn't hate it, but she knows when I'm on a live or if I'm packing orders, I always slip extra bits in. So order on a Thursday if you want to get anything, because I pack the orders on a Friday. So there's always little extras that get thrown in, and it's just my way of thanking the community for supporting us as an indie business. And yes, there is a cost that comes with that, but it leads a community that are going to fight for you, that are going to support you, that are going to cheer you on.
And as an indie excuse me, as an indie publisher, that's something that you can do that the big publishers can't do.
And that's one of the things I always say. I'll be like, look at all these signed books you're getting and all these extra art print. Like we've found quite quickly that the spicy books sell really well. We've got 2 authors we've worked with and we sell their spicy books. So we've got like the not safe for work art prints, which is quite naughty art prints. But I'm a bit cheeky with it, with how I talk, but I talk quite openly about it, and I'm not ashamed or embarrassed about talking about spice in books. I think it's a perfectly natural thing that it doesn't need to be hidden. Obviously, you've got safeguards and stuff like that for people under the age of 18 accessing material like that. But I think because I'm not sleazy with it, I'm not trying to be a thirst trap or anything like that.
Right.
But on lives and stuff, I'll be a little bit cheeky, and I might give a little glimpse of someone's derriere, shall we say, and just be like, oh, cheeky, I can't show you any more of that. And people love that, but we'll put stuff like that in as a little bonus, and I'll be like, for the love of God, when you open this, make sure you are alone. Like, make sure you're not in the library, you're not with family or friends, because they will judge you when they see this art print.
They will ban you.
And just have a bit of fun with it. And again, people love that honesty and that me being genuine. They love seeing me blush. So there was one time my father-in-law had been in to help pack some orders. So I have the art prints positioned a certain way. So when I pull them onto camera, they are not facing the camera. They're the wrong way around. Anyway, he'd put them the other way. So when I pulled it onto camera, you saw one of the characters in their full crowning glory. And obviously I saw it and was like, spun it round, and my head without any, it just went whoop. People like, yeah, we've recorded that, Adam. So they find it hilarious because they know I literally will blush at the slightest thing. But yeah, it's just part of the community you bring. But what we found from that is, well, when we come to sign more authors, we know there's an area there that's working really well for us. So that's the avenue we'd look at, the spicy fantasy, to bring more authors or more books for the community, because we know they love that. But what we didn't expect is for them to go on to buy everything in our product catalogue.
Right.
Like they literally just keep coming back. The same people are like, oh, I'll see their order. I'm like, you can't have anything left to buy. And they're like, no, I've bought this one for my mum, or I've bought this for a family member because it's nearly Christmas. And just coming up with fun things for them.
Yeah.
Different ways to showcase books and have a laugh and get your books to people.
One of the things that I've noticed, you've said a couple of times in interviews, is that we're currently in a bit of a golden age for indie authors. I listen religiously to podcasts about self-publishing, that sort of thing. There's a great one called Six Figure Authors with Lindsay Baroka, and those guys started just after the Kindle came out and everything. Those guys are dinosaurs.
Not the podcast, the guys that had the Kindle birth. They are dinosaurs in the industry.
And they
now.
talk about
new age.
Their podcast isn't going anymore, but they, towards the end, they were talking about how much harder it is now for them as people who started during the initial Kindle gold rush. And you listen to that and you can get a bit sort of deflated and be like, oh man, if I'd have only thought of this 10 years ago, that would have been much easier. But then you're saying this is a golden age. In what sort of way?
So we are in that same era of so hands up if you are either an author or you're writing a book, or you're interested in becoming an author. Is there anyone in? Lots of yous, most of yous. I love that. I absolutely love that. So marketing is, whether you're traditionally published or you're an indie author, I would genuinely say if you actually want to earn income from your book, you're more likely to do that as an indie author than you are going down a trad route. I think there was a survey done, was it last year or the year before, where the average income for an author was £7,000.
Yeah, there was something about how something like, I can't remember the exact figures, but something like 90% of all traditionally published books sell 12 copies a year.
So to put that into context, I know so many authors now that are six-figure authors, true six-figure authors, because they market their books organically, they use social media, which means they're not spending any money on ads. You see a lot of stuff in the media, and you'll see people professing to be six-figure authors, but what they don't tell you is they're spending, out of £100,000, they might be spending £60,000, £70,000 on ads.
Yeah.
There's something there that really grates on me, not for them as an author, but what grates on me is the places that you're paying are earning double to triple what you're earning just for you to gain access to people. So to put that into context in regards to social media, and this is, if you're an author and you want to make money from your books, please pay attention, is think of the person with the biggest following that you can imagine on social media, okay? You could post a video today about your book, an author, you could post a video today about your book at the same time that they do. You have just as much chance as they do for that book hitting a massive audience and for that video to change your life. You've got to put that video out there.
Yeah.
And because your follower count doesn't really mean anything, it has become a vanity metric, and social media is now interest based. So we've all had it. You've spoken to your partner, the Hoover's broke, the telly's broke, you've spoken to your partner, bloody kettle's on the fritz. Next thing you know, you go on Facebook, every other thing is saying kettle,
yeah.
kettle, TV, Hoover. Like it just has a way of knowing what you're actively looking for, or you've looked on your phone for something and then suddenly all these ads are tailored around you. These algorithms, TikTok, Instagram, they're all the same, they're all copying and competing. So if you were all to open up TikTok now and search AP Beswick books and just look at a few videos, I guarantee by the time you get home, every other video would be an AP Beswick video.
I'm constantly ruining my TikTok feed by doing things like
so,
that.
or if you just search your genre of books, dark fantasy books, cozy fantasy, clean fantasy, romantasy, watch a few videos for 5 minutes. Next time you switch the app on, it will all be circulated around content that it thinks you're interested in. And if you swipe past it, it'll soon realize it's not an interest and stop serving it. So, which is why if you're trying to use an algorithm for you, don't get distracted by the puppy videos or the cat videos, because it will then start serving you loads of videos like that. But it's because it will show you what it thinks you are interested in. So if you're putting content out about your books in a genre, like so fantasy, for example, and you're consistent with that, it is only a matter of time before your messaging hits the right people and you can reach that audience. But you have to put the content out there. It doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. And as I said, don't chase virality, because you can literally reach readers every single day. I think I've got 120 odd thousand followers on TikTok. I could put a video out and reach 200-300 people. And that is great, because I've reached 200-300 people that I haven't paid for. Other platforms you have to pay to get that level of reach. But then if that gets engaged with, then that goes out to a bigger audience who then engage with it more, and so on and so forth. So,
and have you said that before, that something like 97% of the people who see your posts are people who don't follow you?
Yeah, a lot of the time, yeah. Instagram's better for it. The more of your followers see it. So if don't follow me on Instagram, please don't cut that out. On Instagram, what you'll find is I use these platforms for what they are, is how I see them, which is a marketing tool for me to reach readers, because I've got a business and I've got a family to support. And I'm not looking to make millions. I'm just wanting to make enough to get by and produce the next book. And I'm always looking at how I can expand my business. And this is why I have multiple revenue streams. So Instagram, it might reach your followers more, but I feel sorry for them, because all they'll see is all these different contents of me going, buy my book. Well, I don't say buy my book, but I'm constantly showcasing my books. So I'm in a process of trying to make my content more fresh at the moment, because I'm doing a marketing challenge. But TikTok, again, it is literally just goes out to fresh eyes every single time. So just bear that in mind. It's fine to put 3 or 4 posts up talking about the same subject, or even the same kind of video, just in a different way. Because when you figure out a format that works, that will continue to work. So if you are then further down the line looking to sell your book, you already know what content converts into readers. So then you've got a baseline for what you to use for actual ads and stuff, if that's the kind of thing you want to run for your books. And finding formats of what connects with readers and makes them interested in supporting you as a person, you as a brand, but also interested in reading your books.
Yeah, I think I've got like quite an outdated view of what social media is. So I use TikTok and I've had a go. trying to like promote my book and stuff, but I don't quite have a handle on it. So I think one of the mistakes I've been making is I've been thinking of it as like a Facebook profile or a MySpace profile. I'm that old.
And before that, I would Bebo.
Bebo, where it's like your
showing my age.
profile is like a curated sort of like collection of videos that are almost like an author website, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. It's more like a TV channel where it's constantly changing. And, you know,
and it's all SEO based, so it's the same as when you go into a Google search and someone types in your name. These algorithms are all the same, so you know they're becoming inherently. They want them to be search engines, but you've got like you can do a video guide on your book series, your writing process, you know who you'd cast as your character. There's so much different kinds of content that you can create out there. Some of it will stick, some of it won't stick.
Right.
That video I told you about that went viral, that literally changed my life. I posted it 6 times, that same video, and it didn't go viral the 6th time.
Right.
Don't know why. It went viral, but had I posted it once and given up on it, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to reuse the content that you've done. It's not like these platforms are going, oh, they've already posted that.
Yeah.
As long as people start to engage with it at any given time, they will then push that out to a bigger audience, which just expands your reach. What I'm saying is if you get a format that works for you and your brand, rinse and repeat it, use that as your reader magnet to get people in, build your audience, and that naturally will produce more and more readers consistently over time. So
the approach is to just sort of keep trying stuff over and over and over and just...
Yeah, I would say that as an author, I can speak for 99% of us when I say that we are our own worst enemy and we create our own boundaries, our own barriers to success. And there's a lot of mindset things you have to look at, and part of that is, I can't repost that, I posted it a week ago, and you know people are going to get bored of that. Well, they won't, because a lot of the people have never seen it before, and it doesn't matter the size of your following. I've got I've probably about 400,000 followers between my platforms, possibly more. If I was to put out a video now, I guarantee 95% of the people that saw my content today haven't seen my content before. Or you know, or it might be that they haven't seen my content for a long time. Because it isn't necessarily reaching people that are following my account. So again, just use that to your advantage, and then have stuff in the background. So I've got a newsletter. So those that want the more regular updates can join my newsletter, and you'll get the personal messages of what I've been up to, what's coming next week, the first know on when I've got a sale coming up, when I've got a special edition being launched. So for example, Wingweaver, I've got a special edition launching at the end of the month on BackerKit, which is a crowdfunding platform. So I'll use my newsletter. I will put content out there because we're getting close to it, but it's my newsletter. I've known about it for a couple of weeks longer than how people have known on content that I've put out and stuff like that. So again, it's just learning to use what you can use to create the brand, create the community, and create content. And as I said, a lot of these platforms are interest based, so use them for what they are, which is a way of engaging and finding new readers every single day.
How did you get started on social media? Because it's I'm sure you hear this a lot from authors. It burns a little bit when you first put yourself in front of a camera and you have to talk about yourself and your book, and it's sort of, you know, you write the book thinking you're a genius, and you get to the end of it and you're like, you've got to sell it, and you're just this is the worst.
I still get raging imposter syndrome. So when I came down today, I was like, there's going to be like 2 or 3 people. So thank you everyone who has made the effort to come down today. So it was a TikTok for Authors Challenge by James Blatch. If some might know who he is, he has the self-publishing show, and he did a TikTok for Authors Challenge, which was a 5-day challenge to create content and get over the hurdle of putting yourself out there. And I started the challenge absolutely terrified, and quite quickly became obsessed, and it's all consuming, and it doesn't mean it's the easy approach, but you've still got to put the work in and the time and the effort. But I've just found it, and it's worked for me. It's been a really good way for me to engage and find readers for my books, which, you know, from a trad point of view, no one would have gone near them. But I've built that up now to book number 17. I can't remember if this was book 17 that I wrote, where I've got a very good deal with Audible, who've paid a good advance for the first 3 books in the series. I wouldn't have had that had I not built up for the last 3 years. So that didn't happen overnight, and it happens with a lot of networking, a lot of going to events where I could meet the people I needed to have the right conversations to grow my business. So it's kind of, you've got to live and breathe it, and you've got to take it seriously. And I'd say the writing isn't the work for me. The writing is the passion. That's the vocation, something you absolutely love, enjoy the creativity side. The job is selling the books. I don't see the writing as work. Like, it isn't. It's something we love doing. So the job for me is the selling of them and the business side. So that takes up just as much as my working week as the writing does. I do try and split it more so 50-50. It's been about 90-10 to the business side for the last few months, which I haven't liked, but that's going to happen when you're running a business. So
what were your author goals like when you first started out, when you were still working, when you were still a nurse? What was your sort of ambition?
One was just to write the book. Two then was to do a book signing and have people turn up that aren't necessarily my friends and family, and then to sell a book to a stranger, so to speak. And then three, the dream was always to be a full-time author and do this as a career, which I never in my life dreamed would happen. I have just February 13th, I think it is, it will be 3 years I'll have been doing this full-time. And now amazing. My wife is full-time. On Monday I have a PA starting, Catherine, so she's joining the team, and that's the first person we've hired to work. So it's always been me and my wife, and we're also got 2 interviews because we're in the market to hire a marketing assistant to take off the workload from me, because at the minute I'm doing all the social media, I'm creating all the content, I'm writing the books, I'm doing the TikTok lives, I'm sourcing or creating the connections with the authors that we're signing. I'm going to events all around the world. I'm doing talks, I'm doing presentations, I'm doing interviews on podcast. There is just too much to manage when bringing someone in. They're going to be creating the TikTok shop content. So they're going to be based at APHQ, as we call it. But they're going to be doing a couple of live streams a week as well. So they'll be on TikTok shop doing TikTok shop lives, because I can see a good opportunity to continue to grow our readership. Not just for me, but for the authors that we publish as well. So we're really excited. It's quite daunting bringing more people in, because at the minute it's just, it's been stressful thinking, right, we've got to earn enough to pay for mine and my wife's wages and the bills for the business, and the print runs, and keep the stock levels up. But having a couple of staff members, it's going to be the same. But I have no doubt that we can thrive with that.
You've had an absolutely amazing 2025. You posted your figures recently. What are your kind of goals going forward? Like, not to sound like a job interview or anything like that, but where do you see the business being in like 5 years' time? So
my plan is, well, me and Sarah have got a 7-year plan now, because it was an 8-year plan when we started it last year. So when we started doing the direct selling, she's just turned 40, I turned 40 in May. I don't want to run myself into the ground. I would want to enjoy life. I want to build a life for my family that stretches beyond me. I want to be able to provide for my kids and my grandkids and their grandkids, and to do that, we've got an opportunity. And our plan is, in 7 years' time now, the publishing arm, we will look to sell it. We want to grow it, sell it, and then go live our lives. I will still write books. I think I will always write books until my dying breaths. But the plan would be to sell the publishing side so that we can enjoy what we want to build up to. So this is why at the minute we're happy to keep reinvesting the money back into the business, because we're not looking for a short-term game, we're looking at a long-term game. When I say we spent £50,000 on stock last year, we bought it all and we were like, we won't actually see the returns on that until we literally sell every last book and don't buy a restock. So until we decide to stop doing this and sell every last book, we won't ever get that £50,000 back. And I was like, it's a really good point. So it is almost like taking a chunk of money, putting it in the business, and that is just sat there until those books are all gone. So it is a long ball game, and I think with anything, you have to have your exit plan. Can we carry on at the rate we are until I was in my mid-60s? No, not a cat in hell's chance. Do I want to get to a point where I can go and see the world? And, I absolutely love my kids, but when we calculated it, if we hadn't have had any children, we could have gone on a all-inclusive Caribbean holiday for 2 weeks, every 3 months.
Yeah, no.
If we didn't have children, not that we calculated how much they cost us, but
Nursery
absolutely
fees,
love them.
man.
Wouldn't change them for the world. And mine are now getting to like college and uni age, which is terrifying. But what we kind of say is we're going to be there for them. We're going to wait till the kids have done their growing, and when our youngest flies the nest and she's off to uni, that's when we want to go and do the things that we haven't been able to do or have always wanted to do and put on hold for our kids, which is the right thing to do. And then, you know, we want to do it before the grandkids come, because then we'll be stuck even more, because we'd want to be involved with those. So yeah, I want to see the world. We've got things we want to do. So yeah, I think it's absolutely fine to have that exit plan and how you're going to think. And we've always been honest with that.
That's awesome. Purely selfish question. Imagine you're a person who's just published a novel. You don't have a clue what you're doing, self-published, and you don't have a clue where to start or anything on social media. What are your first steps?
Just take out your phone and film something and put it out there. Just literally get over that anxiety. If you have written a book, join my Novel Games group. You will see loads of information in there. I don't believe in gatekeeping, so it's all about sharing what's working, what's not working. But absolutely, go on there. I've literally been reaching to all my connections. Really, we're talking 6-7 figure authors that don't spend any money on ads, which you'd think is unheard of. So I've got authors making over £1 million a year, and they're not paying for adverts.
That's mad.
But it's possible. And some of those were people that were like, their genre of book, it won't work. And I've challenged their thought process, and they've gone away, done the work. It's not been easy, but they're doing so well with their books. So if you ever found my old videos, you would see I'm shaking. You can hardly see me. I'm shaking that much holding my camera. So from that, I just learned, I need a camera stand, because people will actually see me and not this thing shaking. But if I hadn't made that first video that got like 100 views, I wouldn't have continued to make content and put myself out there, talk about my nursing career, that I was a nurse before I was an author, talk about my journey, figure out what was connecting with an audience. And it's like anything, the more you write, the better you get at it. Content is exactly the same. It just gets like breathing, like you can just pull your phone out, film something, put it away. And it's the stuff I can guarantee it is the video that you do not want to go viral, or you do not want to reach people, that people resonate with, because that's what they want to see. People see polished supermodels, you know, blokes with chiseled bodies, like this picture of perfection all the time. Actually, you're rooting for you're rooting for the person that you can relate to. So when someone's like, you know, I'm so stressed, I've just done this run with the kids, I've got this going on, I've got this, and I've got this amount of chapters to write, or they're just talking about a scene in the book, that's going to resonate with readers more than someone who puts thousands of pounds into a video production.
Right, yeah.
Because it's more real, and that's why it's organic, it's great. So if you've already got a book out, just literally take your phone out, film yourself for a few seconds, either talking about it or put some text on screen, put a little soundbite behind it, and you'll be amazed at what it reaches, whether that's 200 people, 300 people. It's all organic, it's all free. And most of all, have fun. Yeah. Like, it can be like, you can be so goofy with stuff. I did a video the other day at 200-300 views, but it's literally me with a Jack Sparrow filter, but I'm just miming along to something because I thought, I'm just going to make that relate to sitting at my desk and rewriting a book. Yeah. Because I've not sat at my desk for ages. So didn't reach a lot of people, but those that saw it were laughing because they were like, it's great to see you making content like that again. So that's you awesome. Can do anything with it. Honestly,
the way your writing career has developed is literally like the dream, where you're working a full-time job and writing at the same time, and then you're now writing full-time. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Should we open it to questions from the audience?
Sorry, I am a waffler.
No, it's all right. Not at all. I just I'm hogging you. Hello.
Something like Oracle Fantasy where you start each chapter with like a historian perspective.
Yeah.
I never really understand why that's done. I don't get it.
Yeah, so I wanted it as a way of, again, I'm always trying to think differently. I wrote all the lore after I'd written the book, and it was because I was thinking, right, and there's not enough world building. But again, from my own, how I like to read books, I hate when I've got pages and pages of books that I've got to read of exposition explaining a world's mechanics, the political system, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a way like I get it really disengages me from it. So I was like, how can I do that without ramming it down people's throat? So I think the lore in the very first book is an explanation of how magic works, that it's banned and why it's banned. And so through a quick couple of lines and making it look like it's come from a historical book, the reader's instantly finding out, right, magic's banned, that's where we are right now. And then it was kind of every other chapter I did it. So I did it as a way of expanding the world without it being part of the actual story. So I think it was in Kingdom of Courage and Cruelty, which is book 3, one of the characters, Morgana. Or was it? Or was it Stone of Destiny and Despair? No, I think it was the third book. It's kind of, there's a series of letters that she's writing to someone, and in the background of the story, you can see her plot, what she's wanting to do and what she's trying to manipulate in the background without it being present in the story. It's kind of like the lost letters that have been found and stuff like that. So again, it's just a way, and then I'd use it to, there's a character called Gregor who's inspired by Father Christmas. So I've got some spin-off novellas, and one of my favourite ones is Monster Hunting Father Christmas. It's not written for kids. It's very violent. It's very brutal, and people love that character. But he was introduced in the lore where he's talking about a monster that he's kind of hunting, but it's then reads as an excerpt from one of his journals that's in the history books, because Gregor's stories are set long before A Forest of Vanity and Valor. But it was a way of, when it came out, people were then like, oh, this is Gregor. And then they were putting 2 and 2 together. So you can drop little Easter eggs, and so that's why I do it, which is quite different from how other authors have used it in the past. But again, I like to push boundaries and do things a little bit differently from what people would expect.
Yes.
Maybe you have already been approached, maybe going beyond developing your stories out into like a TV or movies, or is it something you'd like to do?
I think anyone would love that. It can take a couple of years. I've got a friend of mine, she's Kyla Stone. She's over in America.
Post-apocalypse?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Educollapse, is it? I
Yeah.
can't remember the name of the book, but yeah, phenomenal author, absolutely fantastic books, absolute lovely person. She's just been optioned by Sony, I think it is.
No way.
So they've optioned her series, which she has put out there. That's not an exclusive. But that might never get made into something. But normally you're looking at a couple of years for something to go production. I've got a good friend of mine, Daniel Hurst. He's a domestic thriller author. I always say he's kind of our version of Freedom McFadden. He's the English version. He's phenomenal. His output with books is unreal. Really successful author. And I'd always say, like with Colin Hoban, did I say that right?
Harlan Coben.
I said it the wrong way, but it didn't sound right when I said it. He's TV series are everywhere at the moment, and with Danny's books, I know for a fact, if his books were to get picked up, and I think it's only a matter of time, it would be phenomenal. Unfortunately for me, I write fantasy, which tends to be, you need humongous budgets for fantasy worlds and stuff like that. So I'm always like, I would love a cartoon series, an anime or something like that. I'd never say never, but I think realistically, I'm that stubborn. I'd be like, right, let's do a crowdfunding and do it ourselves. Rather than me waiting for people, I'd be like, right, let's get the money together, and we're gonna have episode 1 made and see how it goes, and then pitch people. Because that's how my brain works. Like, if you really want to take hold of the reins, I'm an indie, so I'm kind of like, I've done all the work. I want the biggest piece of the pie. I don't want to sell to a publisher and then earn 10% or 5% of a royalty of a book sale. I want to earn something that's going to be meaningful to myself and my family. Yeah. If that makes sense. But I would love for them to be on the big screen. That would be amazing. You'd all be invited to the red carpet.
So you've mentioned Forest of Vanity and Valor, which probably heard, obviously, and you've got Sword in the Stone. Where does Orjan's story come from?
So Orjan he was inspired by St. George and the dragon. So I can't say too much about his arc, but yeah, book 3 was inspired by the story behind St. George and the Dragon.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on the fourth one.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know about the second one you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, now
So-
I know where the second one is now. It's like, it's Orjan.
Yeah, so Orjan first appears in book 1. So he gets beat up by Virio because he owes Virio money. And again, I took that from reading the history of Robin Hood and St. George and stuff like that, and just had the idea of this. There was a character, and that's where Leith came from, who's inspired by King Arthur. He was inspired by Arthur a Dale. I think it's Arthur a Dale from Robin Hood, where he basically tried to steal from Robin Hood, but then Robin Hood recruits him as one of his merry men. So that's where they're kind of how he's introduced into the story of In the Forest of Vanity and Valor. But then he's one of the major characters within the series moving forward. So Orjan is a fan favourite. He's one of my favourites. And I can't say too much because there's things that happen to him in book 1 and book 2 that lead to book 3.
Yeah.
So
Yours.
One question that I wanted to ask, and briefly, that's the editing.
yes.
I wonder if you could speak to that. Because when you wrote the first, did you have an editor?
Yes, so my first 2 books weren't edited, or very much I wrote them, then my wife edited them and red penned everything, and then I rewrote them. When it came to A Forest of Vanity and Valor, I was interested in a platform called Kickstarter, if you've heard of it, which is a crowdfunding platform. And what I realised is, again, it was a tool that authors weren't fully utilising at the time. Every author is utilising it now.
Even very rich ones.
And and don't get me started on that, because some very famous authors will have you can buy a special edition of them, but to get it signed it'd be an extra £50 or an extra $50, and I do not agree with that at all, fundamentally. Just if someone's paying £50 plus for a book, you should be signing that as standard, not then saying, oh, it's an extra £25-30 if you want me to sign it. So that's like rant over. So basically I used Kickstarter and researched it and did a lot of work, crowdfunded, and part of that was I wanted to hire a professional editor. So I hired a lady called Quinn, who is still my editor to this day. She has edited every single one of my books, and our editing process has just naturally evolved. So with The Forest of Vanity and Valor, I just paid her for one round of editing. Whereas now we have 2 rounds of developmental editing and 2 rounds of line editing. Wingweaver is a 180,000 word book, cost me quite a lot of money to edit, but it's a process that I hate, but is very much needed. Like I think editing is where creativity goes to die. like it just sucks the life out. I know authors that absolutely love the editing process because you can really refine and polish things. I hate it. It's so monotonous. I want to be writing the action and the dialogue. I don't want to be reading it all again. So yeah, what tends to happen, and again, as my process has evolved, and because I'm also an idiot, I wrote Chaos Blade, and when I should have been writing book 2 of that, I came up with the idea for Wingweaver. So then I wrote Wingweaver. So then I didn't have 1 book to edit, I had 2, but the same December deadline.
Right.
So what happened was I finished writing Chaos Blade 2. Sorry, I should have been writing Chaos Blade 2. So I sent Quinn Wingweaver. She started her round of editing whilst I was writing Chaos Blade 2. When that round of editing came back, I sent her Chaos Blade while I worked through the editing on Wingweaver. She was then editing the first round of Chaos Blade. She'd send that back to me. I'd send her back the edits for Wingweaver. She'd then do the second round, and we were just back and forth. But what that meant was from September to December, I did no writing because it was all my time was editing, and we were getting into the busy period for Christmas and stuff and Black Friday sales with the store, with our warehouse. So it's very hands-on. So that editing process has evolved. This year, I've very much been like, no, Quinn, this year it's 1 book at a time. And I'm sticking to that. Don't ever let me do that again. So we've got a timeline of what books and when, and that will be, now it is when I finished a book and send it her to editing, I will start on the next book, but that won't get sent until that other book's editing is finished, or it just keeps that workflow going. So when I finish the draft, I just send it to Quinn, and then when she's free, she moves on to editing that book. And again, normally then it's the edits come back, but I am focusing one book at a time, not writing two back to back and then and never again. It near killed me last year. But yeah, as I said, your process will develop, and you just find something that works for you, and what doesn't kill you, fix it very quickly. Make sure you don't put yourself in that position of burnout. So just refine your process, and I'd certainly recommend develop edits. If you can't afford a developmental editor, get a good circle of people around you that are interested in your genre, that critique partners, stuff like that. Beta readers, they're all very good for. And again, with social media, you could literally find beta readers by tomorrow. If you put content out there, people would volunteer just because they love reading, or they might already be aware of you. Yeah. You've just got to have things in place because you are putting your work out, so you are trusting them, and you don't want that work being misused or shared inappropriately before a book's out. So there are different ways of doing it.
We have a lovely writers group here if anybody's interested. Does anybody else have any other questions at all? Yes.
How did you get together with Talia Beckett? Or what made you decide to write this one out?
So I love Talia. Talia is amazing. So I'd been to a few events and a mastermind group where I'd met Talia but never actually sat and spoken to her. And then we were both at a conference in Ireland a couple of years ago, and I would just happen to be talking to Talia about how I wanted to move my business I'd already moved into the direct selling, but I wanted to expand and start bringing in other authors. And she actually approached me at the time to say, I like that kind of model. I'd be interested in potentially ghostwriting for you. And it was only last year when we were sat catching up at an event that we realised actually we, not from a ghostwriting point of view, but working together on a project. And she'd read the Levanthru series. I'd love to write something in that world. I was like, well, my readers are crying for it, and because of the projects I was already working on, I was like, I've got all these ideas, but I haven't got the capacity to write it all by myself. So she was like, well, what if we work together? And that's where that came from. But it was on our radar for a good 18 months to 2 years before we actually sat down. So Talia Beckett has written about 130 books. Phenomenally talented writer. She's amazing and such an awesome human being. And I've absolutely loved working on Veil of Stone with her. And I love that the readers are like trying to be like, oh, I think you wrote this bit, and I think Talia wrote that bit. And she's really good. Like, we're really good. When we go through our outlining process, we're really good at, oh, what if this happens? Or, oh, well, then what if that led to this? And what if that led to it? And before we knew it, we were like up to book 6 in our heads.
All right.
Currently wrapping up book 2, Crown of Horns, which is going to be a Minotaur retelling.
That's awesome.
Where he's a were-Minotaur. You got that exclusive from me, because I don't think were-Minotaurs exist in the fantasy realm. Because again, we're trying to do things a little bit differently. So we've got we're confident we've got a spin on the Minotaur story that no one's ever read before. So, and the third book is going to be Hades and Persephone. So, and that's an exclusive. No one knows that. Yes. So yeah, she's just phenomenal to work with. And that, again, when I say about going to author events and networking, I'm not saying as a go and take everything you can. Just, you'd be amazed at what naturally happens if you're a nice person and you just get to know people. We've created a really strong friendship. She's signed to our publishing company, so she's working with us. She's happy, more than happy with what she makes from the books up for her side. So we've got Podium that are producing the audiobooks for them. So again, that takes away from the workload of me having to produce the audiobooks. I'm outsourcing that to people who have the resources to do it, so we can focus on other areas. But Aaron Smith is coming back with Laura Harrowitz to narrate Veil of Stone, another exclusive. So they we're just waiting to find out when the audiobook will be out. But yeah, it was a relationship that naturally happened, but I'm really glad that we crossed paths, and she's already trying to, so another exclusive. We're already talking about co-writing another Gregor story, so another Father Christmas one, but we need to bring a badass Mrs. Claus into this, where there's another monster hunter in town. we've got some ideas, and we were like, absolutely, I'll write Gregor and she'll write the kind of Mrs. Claus character, but she's like even more kick-ass than Gregor is. So we're really excited. So we're trying to make some time work around June, July time where we can both sit and just literally write a whole book in like a month, because they tend to be novellas, so they are shorter. But we're confident that we can pull something together that the readers will be. They were fuming this year because this was the first Christmas in 4 years that I hadn't released a Gregor story. So my readers weren't happy with me.
It's a nice problem to have.
Yeah. And I think what we're going to do is potentially keep that a bit of a surprise. So kind of be like, not heavily market it, but then get to like November time and be like, here you go.
Awesome.
It's something we've worked on. And when there's two of you, that process speeds up so much more. Because you're literally doing half the amount of work of what you normally do. So, and Talia writes so fast, puts me to shame. She'll put down a million words in a year. Whereas, for me, 300, 400,000 words is more than enough.
Yeah, that's still a lot.
Yeah, but I'm full time, so I can do that. I haven't written September to December, so I have a lot of frustration with that and a little bit of writer's guilt. But and my aim this year is to put more words down, but that's because these the Wingweaver or AVR Academy series they're going to be a lot bigger books. Yeah.
When does Wingweaver come out?
So, because again, I like to have loads of different ways of doing stuff. I've got an advanced pre-order of that. If you can only get buying direct from my store, so just head to apbeswickpublications.com. Where you'll get the book a month early of general release, or we will send them out a month before general release. That'll be ebook, hardback and paperback. So they'll be sent out at the end of March. The official release isn't the end of April, when that'll be the audiobook and general release. So bookstores, hopefully, Amazon, online, generally online. At the end of this month, I have a backer kit campaign, which is very similar to Kickstarter. I'm just doing it to try a different platform for crowdfunding, where we're launching the deluxe special edition. So if you check out my social media, because I was rushing yesterday, I forgot, I packed everything and I forgot to put the deluxe special edition in, so I could show you. It is absolutely
it looks really
stunning.
Fancy. Yeah.
Purple holofoil, purple printed edges. It's going to have it's one of those that the better the campaign does, the more money it raises, the more I can pay for artists to do artwork that will be inside the book and stuff like that. So the better the campaign does, the more that will be inside the book. But everyone that backs the deluxe edition, because obviously it'll have a higher price point, will automatically be put in the acknowledgements within this book, and that'll be if you look at Forest of Vanity and Valor, there's people who didn't know who I was when I put that out, and they're immortalised in a series that's been read all over the world, that have sold hundreds of thousands of copies, and literally we've got a little map at home of crossing off all the countries we've sold to, and there's pretty much every state in America, Africa, literally India, all across the world, these books I think we had someone in Afghanistan request it. We did send it out. We don't know whether it reached them or not, but the people, you want to reward those that are supporting you, and I want to bring people along with for the ride with that. So that launched at the end of this month. If you go onto my social media, if you go onto the links in my profile, you'll see it as the top link there. That launches at the end of this month. So there, if you back the deluxe, you can also back the standard editions, and I'm doing the shipping in a way where you can get both separately. You'll just have 2 lots of shipping to pay. So you'll get the physical book on general release. Everyone that backs the deluxe will get the ebook sent to them automatically at the end of March for the advanced release, because the deluxe version might take us a bit longer than April to get printed, especially if we're commissioning artwork, stuff like. If you are interested, I've got a concept sketch of Naira. I'll get it on my phone after. She looks phenomenal. She looks awesome. And that's currently being rendered and colour added. So it is just a concept sketch, but I'm already working on finding the right artist. That I approached 4 artists and have paid them commissions, and it's took 4 artists to get one that I was like, goosebumps when he sent it, because he got the brief absolutely perfectly. So Naira's complex in the sense of, there's a scene where Aidan, who's the main character, because her wings are damaged, and she's in a lot of pain whenever she spreads her wings or moves them. So she goes for a process of wing binding. So he binds her wings almost to protect her, so that they're not getting in the way when she's running around, and makes her more streamlined and stuff like that. So finding an artist that has the skill not only to draw a dragon, but is able to draw a dragon that's got their wings bound in a way that is how I've envisioned it in a book was so difficult. But the artist I've found is absolutely smashed it out of the park, and I'm really excited to work on more commissions.
That must
with
be
him.
exciting to see.
Yeah, really exciting. Like, and I love artwork. It gets me really fired up. Another artist that I've literally just commissioned every single Levanthria character to little cartoon character called Chibis or something like that. They're called. Probably crucified the name, but I've literally commissioned them to create all 12 main characters in these little cartoony forms, so I could go make stickers so I can throw them in for free. So I've spent a small fortune on the artwork made to give stuff away to readers, because I know people will love that and want to collect them all. So I'm like, right, if I put 1 or 2 stickers in, they're like, oh, I need to go back again, so I get the other stickers.
That sort of stuff makes a difference. It's an extra personal
like I said, I love the artwork. I love creating fantasy maps. That's another thing I'm working on. Not only a fantasy map for Navaria, where Wingweaver's set, but Aviara Academy, which is the where the whole book occurs. You don't go outside Aviara Academy. So I'm getting to make multiple maps and stuff. Just the stuff that, as a fantasy author, it just makes your brain go, wow, that came from my head.
Nice. That's awesome. Does anybody else have any questions at all? Yeah, of course.
One last one. Are you going to be doing special editions for the rest of the Levanthria series as well as our Ghost?
So one of my things this year is I want all the shinies. So I want as many special editions as I can. So we've got a deluxe special edition that we've already done a crowdfunding on Kickstarter that was successful. And that was to bring the Levanthria series and the Tales of Levanthria books, which is the spin-off stories, into 3 deluxe editions. So they're already in production. So we used the crowdfunding basically so that we use that as an income source to pay for the print run of the books. And what that helps us show is that there's a demand for it. What I also want is, I'd love individual special editions of each book as well, because I think the readers would love that. And I'd love to do them because the books are quite different from what you'd see with traditional fantasy. So I'd like to create the kind of Tolkien-esque traditional fantasy books, because I think that there's that level of nostalgia that people will be like, oh, I want that version. And when you have got super readers, they'll not just buy or go for your one edition, but if they've loved the story, they want it potentially in as many formats as they can. Or again, they might not want an anthology edition, they might want single special editions. So it is something I would be interested in doing. We have got just a timeline at the minute. It's Wingweaver in these deluxe editions. We've also got the Fey Court series that we've got individual special editions for them that we've had made. So as you can imagine, there's quite a lot of cost goes into the cover design, the getting prints of them, proof copies, stuff like that made. There's a lot of work goes into just one book. So I'd love to do.
It would be nice as well, because you've got a completed set, a completed series, which in fantasy at the moment is quite a rare thing.
What I'd love is to do hardback special editions of the series, where I'd love the printed edge where it's a completed picture when you have all 6 books together. So that's what I'm thinking of for that. And they're not massive books, so it shouldn't be overly complicated to do. It's just down. Well, from Monday I have a PA, so I have someone to help me with the project management, and that is one of the reasons they've been brought in, is to speed these processes up, because I've got more ideas than I have time to do everything. But as long as there's a demand, I'll always try and create books in a way that people will engage with it.
Awesome. I just want to say thank you very much again, because you've come a long way and it's been absolutely lovely to chat to you. And as I say, it's properly inspirational seeing how amazingly you've done. And I'm sure there are a million other writers out there like me who are watching you just being like, oh, I can actually have a go at this.
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, and I don't mean it's a cliche, if I can do it, literally anyone can. Like, if I can get myself on camera and sell my books, I don't profess to write War and Peace. I'm not looking for critical acclaim. I just want people that want that escapism. That's the main thing. I want you to have that chewing gum for your brain where you can pick up a book and know you're going to finish it in 4 or 5 hours, even quicker than that if you're a super fast reader. Even Wingweaver, that is the biggest book that I've written, is written with shorter chapters, so that, again, for my brain to be able to focus on it, but because I was doing that in mind of what my readers expect from me now, it's the short, fast-paced chapters that you can binge, but before you know it, you're like, oh, I didn't realise I've just read 50 pages, which is a bit of an achievement, that. And, you know, people reaching out. I had someone reach out yesterday to say they'd never read a book in their adult life, a physical book, but they read my dyslexic font edition of the Levanthry series and read all 6 books in 12 days.
That's amazing.
There's something quite inherently powerful about that you know, so don't just think about how much money you make from a book. Just think about how much you can impact someone, and actually that has more meaning on the world for me than, you know. That's why I make my books as accessible as possible, why they're on YouTube, things like that.
That's awesome. But thank you very much again.
No, thank you for having me.
But yeah, thank you very much. And we've got